Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the mind of a true global icon, Nelson Mandela. We're going to explore the powerful ideas from his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, that really fueled one of the greatest struggles for justice in all of history.
So let's start at the culmination of it all. The date is May 9th, 1994, in Cape Town. Mandela has just been elected the first democratic president of South Africa. And these words from his inaugural speech, they set the whole tone. Right away, he makes it clear. This wasn't about one side winning. It was about everyone coming together.
Because you have to understand, for Mandela, this moment was so much bigger than politics. He called it a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. It was a moment for the entire world to see that a new, better path was actually possible.
I mean, just try to picture the scene in Pretoria. You've got dignitaries and world leaders from all over the globe gathered on South African soil, many for the very first time. It was the biggest gathering of international leaders the country had ever seen, and they were all there for one reason: to witness the birth of a new nation.
And at the absolute center of it all was a man who had spent 27 years, 27 years in prison for fighting to see this very day. That number, it's not just about lost time. It represents the unbelievable sacrifice that was needed to get to this victory.
And that phrase, rainbow gathering, man, it just perfectly captures the power of this moment. For decades, the seat of government had been a symbol of white supremacy. But on this day, it became a symbol of unity. Just a beautiful, stark contrast to the very system Mandela had fought his whole life to tear down.
Okay, so to really get the depth of Mandela's philosophy, we have to go back. We have to understand the darkness that he came from. We have to talk about the system he dedicated his entire life to dismantling, apartheid.
And look, this wasn't just social bias or prejudice. This was a brutal, legal framework of racial domination. Mandela himself described it as one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world had ever known. A system that literally made life a living hell for the country's dark-skinned people. And let me tell you, this was not a short fight. This timeline shows us that the struggle started long before Mandela was even born. It was a generational battle against this deeply entrenched system of oppression, and Mandela's own life ended up becoming the focal point of its final decisive chapter.
What's so fascinating is that this long, hard struggle actually changed Mandela's own idea of what freedom even was. As a boy, it was simple stuff, running in the fields, swimming in the stream. But he grew to see that as an illusion, because as long as his people weren't free, he wasn't free either. His personal hunger for freedom grew into this much bigger hunger for the liberation of all his people.
Right, so it's in the middle of this struggle, seeing the incredible sacrifices of his comrades and living through the system's brutality, that Mandela really forged the core ideas that would guide him and, honestly, inspire the entire world.
So it begs the question, right? What does it actually mean to be brave? Mandela didn't find the answer to this in some book. Nope. He learned it by watching his fellow freedom fighters, men and women who risked and gave their lives for an idea. He saw them stand up to torture without breaking, showing a kind of resilience that, as he put it, defies the imagination.
And this led him to this just pretty brilliant insight. Courage isn't some superhuman trait where you don't feel fear. It's a deeply human act. It's about feeling that fear, knowing it's there, and then acting anyway, because your commitment to justice is just stronger than your instinct to save yourself.
Okay, another really key piece of his thinking was this idea of twin obligations. Mandela believed every single person has two fundamental duties in life. The first is to your family, your loved ones. The second is to your people, your community, your country. And in a normal, humane society, you can balance those two.
But here's the tragic thing. Under apartheid, those two obligations were set in direct opposition to each other. For a man of color to even try to live as a human being, he was punished. So to fulfill his duty to his people meant he was literally ripped away from his family, prevented from being a son, a brother, a husband, a father. It was an impossible, awful choice.
And all of this personal sacrifice, it all builds to what might be Mandela's most radical, most powerful idea. An idea that still challenges us today. The true nature of liberation.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. This is probably his most profound, most difficult idea to wrap your head around. He's saying freedom isn't just for the victim. The person inflicting the suffering, they also need to be set free.
So how is that possible? Well, in Mandela's view, when you take away someone else's freedom, you become a prisoner yourself. You get locked behind the bars of your own hatred and prejudice.
you're robbed of your humanity. So for true freedom to exist, both sides have to be freed from the chains that bind them.
And look, this wasn't just some abstract philosophy. No way. This idea was the actual blueprint for his vision of the new South Africa. The goal was never revenge, it was reconstruction. It was about healing the entire nation, fighting poverty, creating jobs, and building a society where everyone, oppressor and oppressed, could finally reclaim their humanity, together.
These powerful words from his inauguration were his solemn pledge. It was a promise that the darkness of division would be replaced by a lasting light of shared freedom and human dignity. A future built on reconciliation, not on getting even.
And so that leaves us with this really big, challenging thought to chew on. If both the oppressor and the oppressed lose their humanity in that struggle, what does it actually take to get it back? Mandela's life seems to suggest the answer is in courage, forgiveness, and the radical belief that true liberation can't leave anyone behind. It's a question that goes way beyond South Africa, and it challenges every single one of us to think about what freedom really, truly means.